Sandarya, that's a very beautiful thought of the fact that one has a lot of responsibility towards the employees or towards the people you're serving as an entrepreneur. And your company is basically serving women who need your expertise, your help. So when you first went around to companies trying to persuade them that, well, this kind of scheme can work, that women can come back, you can allow them to work flexi time, how did you actually persuade them to try this out? And can you give us a story or anecdote which shows how one can get companies to come around to this kind of thinking?
When we first launched Avatar IWIN, which stands for Interim Women Managers Interface Network, the first client that we actually approached was Standard Chartered Bank. And I heard that they were looking for women to staff one of their projects, and I walked in to meet the person who was in charge of that project. And I said, you know what, there are many women who have dropped off the workplace, and they form part of my network. Would you be interested in finding out, if they can be utilized for this project? And that project was a 145-seater customer service center at Standard Chartered Bank, Scope International in Chennai. And so the person there, actually, he was a business head. And he did not think of it as a corporate social responsibility or a nice thing to do for women. He said, I am currently facing 45% attrition in that department. Do you think that by bringing back women who have already quit, do you think you can make a difference to that? And that was my challenge. So we then instituted a process of an assessment and development center whereby we assessed about 1,300 women to staff those 145 positions which were there. And like Shri was also mentioning, it could be that there is a God who, looks after you or, wants to make the difference to prove something. And when these women joined, after 6 months when I went back for a review, the attrition had come down from 45% to 8%. There are only 8% women who actually left the workplace after coming back from a break. Their loyalty was high, their engagement with the organization was high, they felt very grateful that they had been given that second chance. And that project sort of galvanized the entire work that we did from that point onwards. It seemed that more and more companies were interested in actually hiring women, not just returnee women, but also women from different age groups. A large part of the women who form part of our network are first-time career-seeking homemakers. They are women who are probably 40 plus. We also have women who are nearing 50 who want to try out the experience of a career for the first time. They've probably, studied well, they've got a graduation, they've got good pedigree, but, they've always been looking after children and the home. And, today they are facing an empty nest. Children have grown up, they've left, and so what should I do with my time? Is there any way I can be economically productive? And one such, group of women, we actually helped with Future Group, with, Big Bazaar and Food Bazaar and that group, right here in Bombay. And there's a very interesting anecdote that I'd like to share here with regard to that. We had actually conducted this drive, exclusive women drive for Future Group, and close to 3,000 women were profiled and assessed across 8 cities all over India. And I actually wanted to know how are these women making a difference to the day-to-day operations of the, of the stores. So I went back to one of the stores and I met the store manager and I asked him, you know what, we've had this huge project and you've had so many women being employed. Can you tell me what is the benefit that you're really getting out of it? And he took me straight to a counter, which is the counter where you come and return products. Defective products, you return it. He said, this counter, I would never find people sticking on to the job here because it's a thankless job. Customers come in, they throw their stuff at you, they say it's not good, they demand their money back. And today, you know what's happened? I have got a 48-year-old woman manning that counter, and whenever people come in, they feel bad about shouting at her. It's like shouting at your own mother. It's like throwing things. So when she says, "Haan beta, I'll look into it, I'll make sure that, you get your stuff addressed," there's nothing that he can do. So he actually has to be very sweet and soft about that whole thing. And this store manager said that one position itself is absolute value for money as far as I'm concerned in terms of running my business. So our core purpose is to make sure that, when you provide jobs for women, it doesn't need to be a favor. Women bring in some exquisite skills to the workplace. They are inclusive. Their emotional quotient, as Ms. Zia Modi was mentioning, it's fantastic. Their involvement with keeping the group cohesive is great. We all share those qualities. So it makes business sense for companies to engage more women. So that's the plank that we typically worked on.
Those are some amazing stories, Saundarya, and I'm sure there are many women in the audience who want to come and meet you after this session is over. Maybe some of our mothers and other, friends whom we know may also want to get in touch with you. Priyanka, a lot of women do textile designing, fashion designing, and then they become, owners of a boutique.
Boutiques, yeah.
So how come you chose to go the distance? Because doing a boutique, you need 2 tailors, you need 1 shop front, you need maybe 20, 30, 40 clients, and it's very flexible. कभी गए नहीं गए चलता है, बीच में 1 महीना बंद कर दिया वो भी चलता है. But when you're running a factory, employing 70 people is full-time employment. Then you
70
have
is my staff.
job
I
work,
outsource
you have
everything else.
constant demands from clients, maybe Pantaloon calling you and saying, this consignment, this
24/7
problem.
job.
So why did you decide to grow and, why did you decide to create a headache for yourself, as they say?
No, it's not a headache. It's really tough, of course. It's 24 hours. There is no time. You could be holidaying anywhere. Your phone is on, your email is on, and you're working. And as I tell people, I'm just making clothes, I'm not saving lives. But clothes are so important if they have to reach today, because the retail industry is so huge. There are losses and there is space empty, and women want to wear it today, they want to wear it today. So I started it because I really thought affordable, good clothing for the normal woman. I don't need to go to a designer. In fact, I feel of course, I have nothing against designers, they are brilliant. Some people are doing great jobs, but everyone goes on your wedding and spends like millions of rupees, and you go to a designer and she's giving you something that she probably made in Santa Cruz, or if you understand the fabric, it's not pure silk, it is polyester, and you think it's pure silk. So I just wanted to do something that's different, and I specialize in printing, so I stick to that because I'm good at that. I don't want to do embroideries because everyone thinks only embroideries are expensive. So I like to texturize my fabric, and of course I started this and it grew. And as they said, the employees grew and the women grew and the men grew, and their families are there, and there's AIDS and cancer and mother-in-law and children and education, and you can't stop. Like there are days when I want to say I don't want to do this, but what happens to those 4,000, 5,000 families? So you continue, but of course there's a high in it also. I love seeing people wear my clothes. The hoardings are all over, and I was never brand conscious. I just wanted to do good work, so that's why I did it.
Priyanka, I want to ask you, in manufacturing, as you grow, you need to raise money, you need to raise capital. So how did you do that? Did you go to a bank? Did you get somebody funding it as an investor? How did you handle that portion?
As she said, growing little is very simple. When you start doubling your turnovers in crores, you're stuck. Husband's salary is not enough. So we started, in fact, last 3-4 years I've been struggling. I still am struggling with finance. And being a designer, for me, debit credit is plus and minus. I don't understand cost accounting, cash flow, and all these technical terms. Tried to do my MBA, learned something, but still. So at this point, my biggest challenge is finance. If I want to grow the way the retail industry is growing, Fab India is growing, these are my major clients. Where do I get the money? Because we are a credit-based industry. We work on 120 to 160 days payment terms. But the job worker has to be paid every 15 days. So how do you do that? TIE has helped me a lot. I've had a mentor We are trying to understand. I'm looking for a financial partner, but the CGTMI scheme that the government has given was great to start off, because 6 years back, no one would give me a crore without anything. But the government did do that. So there are schemes, that really can help us. But yeah, still struggling. Still struggling.
Okay, so I just want to mention to you about the CGT scheme that Priyanka talked about. This is a Credit Guarantee Trust of India, which guarantees the loans given by banks to SMEs, that is small and medium enterprises. So you can be eligible for a loan up to 2 crore rupees without giving any kind of guarantee. And most of us don't know about this. The banks usually don't tell you about this, but then you have to maybe tell them that, look, I want a loan under CGT scheme. The loan is given by the bank manager based on your proposal and his, belief in you and his belief in your business plan. But, it is guaranteed by the CGT. So there's very little risk for him. Like, he doesn't have to worry that what if your business fails and what happens to my money. So due to this CGT scheme, large amounts of money are being disbursed to SMEs. And Priyanka has benefited from that. And there may be people in the audience who can also use that information.
The manager will never say yes. Please go to the website, go to the office, get a booklet, go to the manager with the booklet and say, this is the scheme and I want to do it against it. He'll say, no, give me some collateral, give me some property, I'm safer that way. He doesn't understand this is a much safer scheme, because the government is paying 62 to 65% of it if in case I go bust. So please, I think it's
very few people go bust. I mean, the default rate in the scheme is 0.01% or something very low. So do avail of the scheme if you are in need of small amounts of money, up to 2 crores. Trina, I want to ask you also about the fundraising aspect, because as an NGO, you face the same kind of challenges as a business in terms of going to maybe a organization, some kind of a donor who will support your work, because it's not generating money on its own. It's not that profit kind of an enterprise. So how do you raise funds for your organization?
Honestly speaking, fundraising is not our biggest challenge. The money is out there. There is just millions of dollars flowing in the NGO circuit from huge international donors. And I think the challenge really is how well you can utilize that money. Our challenges are more like on the ground stuff, just like battling the stigma against trafficking. People don't even want to admit that it exists. So well-educated, working, upper middle class people don't know what trafficking is. I try telling my relatives that I work with trafficked women, and they think I work with children in traffic lights, like who sell products around traffic lights. So, and also like these girls don't come with birth certificates, they don't come with any documentation, so getting them to schools, getting them into colleges, finding a place to stay in Mumbai. I mean, it's difficult for single women to find a flat anyway. Now try 15 single women. We get eviction notices once every month, and I think I have like 3 of them laminated on my wall or something. But I think those are our bigger challenges, actually.
So how do you get the landlords to agree? I mean, you have to house the girls somewhere, so don't they do raise objections?
Yeah, of course. And before we got the flat, so we moved recently into a much bigger apartment so we could expand, and we were turned down by 13 people before we got this one. And we don't even say that we work with trafficked women. We just say we work with marginalized girls who don't have homes, etc. But they don't want to rent out to single women at all, because we drink and party and have premarital sex. So.
Okay, we'll have to touch upon the personal aspect of balancing home and work, which I think should be part of all conferences. Even if men are sitting here, it should be a part of the conference, but it usually never is. So let me ask you, Srividya, how do you do it? I mean, you're saying you're in office at 8 a.m. and you're leaving at any time, and sometimes you're even going on night rounds. So how did you bring up your 2 daughters alone?
Well, when I started this, my second child was 1 year old, because I suffered the matrimonial home when she was 20 days old baby. And therefore, when she was 1, I had no other choice. I mean, if we have to survive, I have to leave her in a creche and go. And I would leave her in the creche in the morning, and evening I would come back at around 5:30, 6 o'clock, pick her up from the creche, probably take her to my workplace, and then she would be playing around there with some toys and all that. And I'll be able to feed her as well there. And that's how it was. The bigger girl was 6 years old by then. So she would also help me take care of the little one. From school, I would go and pick her up and bring her straight to the office. And they will also sit with me till 10 o'clock and then get back home. After a period of time, when they became teenagers, they knew that mom is into serious stuff and she's into a very difficult stuff, and therefore we'll have to take care of ourselves. And both the girls have done academically very well. My elder child is MS Mass Communication, and she was also Miss Mangalore. And the younger one has done her BSc Electronic Media, and she was working for the Hindu in Chennai. Now she's studying in Warwick. She's doing her MSc Management Studies, because they have seen that, I have been in a very different industry, and, a lot of eyebrows go up, and it's never sunk into me. I mean, success has never sunk into me, but the kids are very excited about how mom has come up in life, and they've seen me through and through. And I think God has blessed me, with height and weight. That's been amazing for me, because in college I never used to like my height. I can't do any mischief. I was in the basketball team. I would always get caught in the class. I wasn't very studious, let me tell you honestly. +2, all red marks, and But I told my children, I was a rank holder, but then later on they came to know it was all, it was all hot air and it was going up in the air. I mean, I couldn't even get hold of that. But nevertheless, this design probably God gave me, because He knew I was going to be in a male bastion and I would need this height and weight to command respect from the workforce, especially the blue-collar workers. The girls are also as tall as I am. So the girls are saying, Amma, now you are on wireless. That's very exciting. So that's how it started, and they started becoming a part and parcel of my business. And the younger one especially is very excited that she wants to take over. To put it in a nutshell, once they grew up and they knew that their security is also a threat, they would lock themselves inside the house. The bigger girl would take care of the smaller one. They will not open the door till I call them from outside and tell, it's mom who's coming. Now you can open the door. So at 10 o'clock, they would come and open the door for me. And food, just once a day I would cook. The kids were so sweet. God had blessed me, very good children. They would eat that twice a day without complaining. Morning, what I make, I would heat and give them in the evening. And they were very happy with it.
We must have a separate session on how to train our kids to eat the same food in lunch and dinner, all of us.
Not anymore, not anymore.
Saundarya, what were your challenges on this front, and did you have any kind of support system which helped you?
I think I followed Mrs. Zia Modi's advice to absolutely to the letter. My success is the success of my family. So the inclusivity is the core for me. I live in a joint family. My mother-in-law is absolutely my pillar of support. And right from day one, she has been equally proud of, as my husband in terms of the success. But more importantly, when it comes to work-life balance, I think, women do it all the time. I mean, we do it every time. Whatever job we are in, whether we are entrepreneurs or we are professionals or we are, executives working in a company, I think that whole concept of work-life balance is itself, I think, flawed in a way. I mean, why should we look at it being balanced? That means obviously one goes up and the other comes down. So I think it should be work-life integration. The part that, you don't sort of look at work as the enemy of life and life as the enemy of work. So from that perspective, I think one more thing, which I have done is, I have invested in infrastructure at home, which is similar to what we do at work. So at work, you look at HR policies, you look at incentives, you look at motivating people, you look at promotions. I think you should do the same in your home setup as well. So if you have someone who is a day maid, you can elevate her to become a cook. Or if you have someone who's been doing, the other aspects, then you can give them a position as being a little bit like a manager of the house. And believe me, with that empowerment and the fact that she is responsible for your success, it works wonders. So, yeah.
Okay. No, I just want to ask you, when you train women also, when you're placing them in organizations,
Absolutely.
what do you actually, maybe it came to you very naturally, but how do you train them to do the same in their life?
Absolutely. One of the key things we find when women want to make the transition from a break to getting back into the workplace is that they have lost confidence to a large extent. They feel that, I don't know, will I be able to hack it? I might probably end up reporting to someone younger than me. I might get into a job where they pay me peanuts, I might not be able to negotiate. So that whole concept of confidence is what is the biggest challenge. So we conduct a lot of sessions. In fact, one session is called the segue session. So the segueing part of moving people from one stage of life to the other, where it's more a question of giving them life skills rather than technical aspects. And that really helps women, because once they know that they can do it, then nothing can stop them.
Priyanka, did you cook and come to the conference, or you had a cook who fed you before you came to the conference, or you didn't eat at all before coming?
No, I got married much later because my husband was in Singapore and I couldn't move because I wanted to be here. I stay with my in-laws, so the support system is in place. And as she said, Bombay is the best place to be. You can organize everything. One phone call and everything can be organized, of course, motivating and all. And the same goes at work, you know. My dream is that my core tailors, I have a sampling unit who I started with, production, should have a factory of their own. And you know, the peon should become a quality checker, the quality checker should become a manager, the merchandiser should become a senior merchandiser. I tried getting senior people, but I realized the people who were working so hard, I wanted them to become senior people and get junior people, and it really works because they are very motivated and everything. Home is great. Pradeep works as much as I do, so it's okay. And
Does he work with you, or he has his own
no,
business?
he works with Oracle. Totally different, thank God. Only thing I use is his salary, which comes to my office every month. So that's it. I live with my in-laws. My parents live in Udaipur. Friends have been Bombay again, you know, even after the crash and getting back to college. And friends are a great support system over here, you know. If someone falls ill somewhere, someone will reach before you. So I think you need to have a support system. That's really important. Of course, everyone gets very irritated with my phone because it rings 24/7. So you can't have a conversation, you can't watch a movie, you can't... These are things you have to do. I can't say no to anybody, as in work is work.
Trina, you're very young, you're not facing some of these issues right now, but what's your vision of how you'd like your life to be, and what kind of person would you like to share it with, and how do you see that happening?
I actually do have some similar challenges. I had to cook lunch and breakfast last night for the children today, Mom, like before, so I could attend this all day. So I'm doing the cooking as well. So I am engaged and I'm getting married next year. And the plan is, I mean, so right now I of course live in this apartment with all these girls, and you know, sometimes I think of living in an apartment on my own, but it doesn't even make sense because there's no point in the day when I feel like my work for the day is over, now I can go home. So even if I had an apartment of my own, when is that point in the day that I would leave and go there? So no, I haven't really figured out when I'm married. I mean, maybe I'll always be in a long distance relationship.
Time, don't worry about it. So I think it's been amazing, this sharing that's happened here. You know, with such a large audience, I don't think we even realized that all of you sitting there listening to it. It was almost like we're talking to just each other.